If you've found over the last 6 to 9 months that LinkedIn has got more difficult, you are not alone. It's got noisier. That doesn't mean LinkedIn's dead, but it does mean it's harder to win clients. I can remember like 4 or 5 years ago, I could go on there, send 100 messages and get 15 to 20 people respond. Those days are over. And so now we have to be way more strategic to actually get a result. We have to be more focused and really approach the platform with a plan. I've got 5 slots in my Accelerator Elite program. Now, this is not a program for everybody. It doesn't fit everybody and it won't be everybody's cup of tea, but it's an ROI-backed program that builds a 100-day plan with you. Maverick steps into your world and we, over 100 days, implement a plan. We coach you, we support you, we provide you with templates and frameworks. We give you all the support you need with the content you need to create, how to create it, how you engage a prospect, how you get the prospect onto a call, the tech support to do it. We work truly together to coach and train you and give you that plan to get results. And we are there every step of the way. Now, of course, I can't commit my time to lots and lots of people in this way, and neither can Maverick. So we only have 5 slots available starting early May. So it's a first come, first served basis. We will put you on a wait list if the places have gone. If you want to know how this works, you can click the link below, book a call with our team, and they will explain the whole process to you, how it works. You can decide if it's a fit, and you can be one of the 5. If you're too late, we'll put you on the wait list, and when another spot opens up, we will let you know. So if you are ready to make an impact on LinkedIn, get clients from LinkedIn in the next 100 days, book a call and find out more about the Accelerator Elite program.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this live session. We are just letting everybody in across all of the various feeds, wherever we are right now. So wherever you're watching, welcome. I'm going to kickstart in a couple of minutes. So we will kickstart, but do let me know. I can see the chat here. Let me know where you're joining from. I'm going to step back a minute while I see where you're joining from. This is going to be an interactive session tonight, so you can ask questions in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is. So do ask questions in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer them as we go. So if you've never been to any of our sessions before, this is a training session. I don't have a QVC thing that's going to come up here and go, you know, all that kind of countdown stuff. This is a training session, so I want you to ask as many questions as you can. I can see we've got Anne from Denmark, Eric from Houston, Fadi from Cairo, Jessal from India, Ashkay from Dallas, Phil from Warsaw. So welcome. There's lots of you joining, so I can see all the chat here, which is brill. And we're just 1 minute past, so if you can just bear with us a couple of minutes, just let's get everybody in. The LinkedIn notifications, the social media notifications, they take a couple of minutes to ping onto your phones, so people will jump in soon. Hi, Alistair from Aberdeen. So I am live from Plymouth, United Kingdom today for this session about how do you practically, what do you need to do to put in place to be successful on LinkedIn. And today is primarily focused on small business owners, solopreneurs, because obviously if you're a salesperson, it's a little bit different. And if you're a large corporate, it's a little bit different. But this is primarily focused for small business owners on LinkedIn. And how do they build that 6-figure revenue pipeline? How do they get enough opportunity that makes the platform worth their while? And I know many of people have approached me and said, Dean, I'm posting, I'm doing this, and it's just not coming together. I'm going to explain why tonight and give you some practical things to think about to actually get to the place where it's working. So hi, Mike from Manchester. So it's all good to see you here. Brilliant. And there's loads of you on YouTube as well. So say hi on YouTube. We'll flick to the YouTube comments in a bit and we'll have a chat to you guys on YouTube as well. So let me get started. I'm going to share my screen, but I don't want this to be death by PowerPoint, right? It's been a long day for me, so the chat keeping me lively. You're going to keep me up and moving and alive. So please do Ask questions in the chat. If something doesn't make sense to you, ask, because if it doesn't make sense to you, it might be somebody else that's also thinking the same thing. And so you asking and being brave and asking that question can help somebody else too. Okay, so the promise of tonight's session is how to build a 6-figure revenue stream on LinkedIn without, I don't know whether you can see that actually, without paid ads, pushy tactics, or a big following. That's the focus for tonight. And I'm going to break down some of the challenges around going to market, not just on LinkedIn, but actually any platform. Any platform you go on, you will face these same challenges. And I'm going to explain those challenges first, lay them out bare for everybody to see. And then I'm going to unpick how do we fix them? What's the steps we need to take? Now, as part of tonight's session, I have got this little book that you can have for free. Just drop us an email and our email address should be on screen. So our email address is on screen. Send an email to the address you see on screen, hi@maverick.io, and we will send you a copy of this book, which kind of outlines, it's not a massive book, but it's a 15-20 minute read, something like that, but it lays it out in a little read that you can take. So if you want a copy of this, the email address is on screen, hi@maverick.io. Send an email to hi@maverick.io and we will email this back to you. So don't, you know who you are, don't put your email in the chat. Send an email to us, send an email to me, and I will send you this back. I'll give you a nudge on this a little bit later. So we're going to break it all down today and make sense of it. So just so you're aware who I am, so that you're not wondering who's this weird person talking down a camera at me. I'm Dean. I founded Maverick in 2013. Started as a solopreneur all by myself and had to kind of figure all this stuff out. Back then I was a marketing consultant, and actually I've done a post about this today. So you can go find me on LinkedIn or Instagram and you can see that. There was no silver spoon here. I had to bootstrap this thing, right? So there was no big venture capital, as a certain person would say, a small loan of $1 million. I had to bootstrap this thing. And now we're one of the biggest people in the kind of LinkedIn space of social selling and helping businesses like yours, like mine, grow on LinkedIn. So the golden rule is I only teach what I do. If I've never done it, I'll go do it first, see what works, and then I'll tell people. But I'll never teach what I've not done. So that's our rule. And actually, you've probably, if you've been following me for a little while, you probably see that I do go to LinkedIn on a regular basis. I've participated in their own panels, so I kind of know the platform pretty good. Okay, so what are the problems with building revenue and a pipeline on LinkedIn? What are the key problems? And again, I'm just going to kind of focus this in on small businesses and business owners. So I'll just say hello there. Dr. Janice there from Baltimore, welcome. What are the problems? So I'm going to lay them all out, but they kind of break down into 3 categories. There's the mindset issues that come with approaching a digital platform to sell what you do. There's the strategy problems, and there's the technical problems. So I'm going to just break these down a little bit. So what's the mindset problems, right? It's just the way you're thinking about the platform. It's your presuppositions. It's the way you've done business before. And I'll give you one very classic example of this. If you've been reliant or your business has been built on referrals and you approach LinkedIn because you want to spread your wings, you want to diversify, you want to grow, but your referral network isn't big enough, you will have a shock when you come to LinkedIn because suddenly it feels very hard to sell what was quite easy through referrals. And so I'll explain why that is in a moment, but that's one of the common things people have, referrals. If you've been selling through networking and you come to LinkedIn, it might feel difficult and uphill and hard to show the value. You might be worried people can't afford your service because maybe you've tried a few things, they've not worked out, and you've got this kind of in your head, maybe I'm too expensive. You don't know who the audience is. Big one. Don't know who's the best customer. You're stuck on that. Don't know how to sell, right? There's some people, it's just I don't know how to sell. Confidence issues or, and this was one of mine, I've kind of softened a little bit on it over the years, but I didn't want to do the kind of cold stuff. I didn't want to kind of message complete strangers and say, hey, do you want to buy my stuff? And so that can feel a little uncomfortable. In fact, the whole online versus offline can feel uncomfortable when it comes to interacting with people because it feels strange compared to in person. So there's a lot of things in us that make it difficult. Then there's the strategy piece, right? What am I selling? Why does it matter? How do I communicate that? All of that stuff. Who's the best audience for me? What's the messages I should be sending? What's the crafting of the messages? And how am I going to do it? What's the process I need to follow? Now, I won't name names, and I won't pick on anybody in particular, but I will bet you've had this scenario. Some people watching this, and feel free to admit it in the chat if you want to, but I'm not going to ask you to if you don't want to. Some of you have compared yourself to influencers and second guessed what you're selling. I know that because I get told that by lots of people all the time. You know what you do, you know you do it well, but because you've struggled to communicate it, you look at other influencers, big followings, big noise, big engagement, and you think, I must do what they do because it's working for them, so that's what I must do. Some of you have tried so many different things, little bit magpie syndrome, and not really decided, I'm going to settle on something and make something work. So these are strategy issues. These are issues around how you'll use it, how you're going to go to market, what you're going to go to and how. And then the final thing, which is actually the easiest thing, in all honesty, out of these three categories of issues, the technical one is actually the easiest to solve. I can sit down with you in a few hours and show you how to use LinkedIn. But how to craft a post that gets people to actually respond is the difficult thing. How to build a system that takes people from they don't know you to wanting to buy from you is a bit more tricky. It's not as easy as just reading a manual. Crafting your offer and message so it appears and feels valuable to your ideal clients is not a quick thing. It's not a simple thing. But when you get it right, it scales quite quickly. But what most people do is they abandon a strategy before they've invested the time in getting it to work. So I don't have to admit to any of those things, but these are common things. We see it every single day. People come across us and say, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. Very few people approach us and say, I don't know how to use LinkedIn. Most of the people approach us and say, I'm doing things on LinkedIn and people don't seem to want what I've got. I'm doing things on LinkedIn, but now I think maybe my offer's wrong, or maybe what I'm selling isn't valuable, or nobody needs it. These are the common things that people come to us with. Yes, there's a little bit of I want to use Sales Navigator, but fundamentally it's like, how do I get my content in front of the right people? That's not a platform issue, that's the content issue. So these are the problems. So hopefully you're all engaged, and hi Noshad from the UK and MD Reza from Bangladesh. So there's lots of you here, and hopefully this is proving interesting for you and helpful. So the first thing we have to do is, if you've got these problems, you want to hit that six-figure revenue, you want to take the stress away from it, you want to know that you've got business coming through, then we know we have to fix those 3 areas: the mindset, the way we think about it, the strategy of how we're going to use it, and then the technical of physically doing things to actually make LinkedIn work. So we know we have to do things, but when we've got things that aren't working, or when we want to achieve something, we have to really come back to the foundations of first principles. And so I'm using an example here of first principles that before we go to market with LinkedIn, we can either get really excited and just start posting and going crazy, or we can build something. We can build something that will feed us, not for just next week and not for I need a lead or I need 5 leads now. We actually build something for the long term that's successful and feeds us this month, next month, the year after, because we're building something. We're building a pipeline of revenue from LinkedIn. We're building a platform that helps us build our business. So we have to start from ground zero. And ground zero, and this is my experience, I've had to do this twice on social media platforms. I came from Facebook, so I was a Facebook person originally, and I was very good at Facebook and moved to LinkedIn and kind of abandoned Facebook, to be honest with you. But we have to break down the problem. And I give you an example of this. Space shuttles were notoriously expensive. Yeah, very, very expensive. You need to find a way to actually do it cheaper. You have to find a way to do it efficiently. So the first way is to just squeeze things and try and test things and tweak and play around with what we've already done. In other words, adapt what you've already got to make it work. And that will get you so far. But to really make something go well and achieve a goal, you have to really pull it apart and go, okay, let's start with the basics. Let's start from the beginning and build this so it's the best it can be, so you get the maximum results for the least amount of effort. I didn't say no effort, the least amount of effort. What most people do is try and take what they've already got with the least amount of effort, make it work. And that fails. 9 times out of 10, that fails. Or you need to spam message like hundreds of people and pitch what you do. So first principle is start from ground zero. So you will have, there's lots of people watching this with all different business angles, different services, the works. But there's a basic truth here, right? You are all coming to this call or this live with a goal in mind. You should all be having a goal in mind. And I've just put an example of a goal on screen. So here we've got, I need 20 clients to pay me £10,000 or $10,000 if you're in the US or Canada or wherever, to make £200,000 or $200,000. That's the starting statement. Now you'll make your own. And if you've got a notepad, write it down, because as we go through the notes, we can break this down. So I need 20 clients to pay me £10,000 to make $200,000. Very obvious, very straightforward statement. No big deal there. But that is kind of made up of 4 components. Who are those clients going to be? Because I only need 20. All your effort on LinkedIn, you need 20. But they have to be 20 people who are absolutely convinced that what you've got is something they need. Because they have to believe that what you're doing is going to be worth more than £10,000. And then you need a system to do that over and over and over and over again, 20 times. So think about that for a moment. 20 people need to be absolutely convinced that £10,000 for what you're offering is worth way more to have than not have. And you've got to build a system to do that. That's all we've got to do. So when you're sat there obsessing about, oh, I used to get 10,000 views and now I get 1,000, right? It does not matter. If those 1,000 impressions or 200 or 500 are from the right people, it's irrelevant whether you got 1,000 or 10,000. So think about what I'm saying here, because some of you are on this content rat race, and I'm not saying don't post content. I'm not saying that at all. But there's an extreme that we go to where we obsess about views and likes and comments at the extent of who were the views. Did those views, did those comments, did those likes actually move the needle for my business? Did they help me? Because if 20 people, 20 of the right people are in those views, or in those likes and in those comments, and they are starting to believe in what you're doing, that is the most successful post you will do. So let's just get some perspective here. We do not need to chase this big audience following influencer thing if we're focused on the right people. There's some people posting on LinkedIn and you'd look at their posts and go, ooh, there's not much there, but they're actually making really good money because they're really focused on the who, why, what, and how of their business, how they do it on LinkedIn. So 20 people, 10 grand, why they need to pay it, that's how much you make. So if you think about it, 20 people, and we'll just work with these for a moment, 20 people, that's what you need, 20 people. Now you might need more, you might need less, but 20 people, let's go with that. In all of your activity, everything that you're going to do on LinkedIn for the next 12 months to make that £200,000 for the next 12 months is to convince 20 people. Now we're starting to break this problem down, 20 people, and I've got 12 months to convince 20 people. It leaves us thinking, and I'm just going to speak for you here because I can't hear you, obviously. It leaves you thinking probably, what have I been doing on LinkedIn if all I have to do is convince 20 people? What have I been doing? What have I been doing that means I've not convinced 20 people? And I always, when we do our accelerator, when somebody joins our accelerator, we do a go-to-market strategy with them. We write this down and we actually build this plan as a document that the clients work with. And I say, how good are you at closing calls? How good are you at closing calls? In other words, somebody says, oh, I'd love to know more about what you do. They send an inquiry in, you go on a call. How many calls would you need to do to get a client? And don't worry, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. I just want you to think about this and really break this down, because suddenly you start going, wow, I really need to think this through. I need to have a strategy here because it's now making sense. So let's say I need that 20 clients over the next year. Now my maths is not perfect, but that's like 1.6666666 clients per month. So let's call it 2. So how many sales calls do you need to get those 2 clients? Do you know? Some people don't know. Some people have no experience. So it depends on how good you are at the sales call piece. Now we have some clients who go, I'm absolutely terrified, I don't know what to do. I'm so worried about it, it's stressing me out. And we coach them in it, but you need to have a number to begin with, because if you need 2 clients per month, you might need 4 calls, 4 discovery calls for that. You might need 8 discovery calls, you might need 10. 10 calls in a month to get the 2 clients. But if you have none of these metrics written down, you have no idea what success looks like. You're just hoping that a call will come in and it'll convert. Actually, what you need is to build a whole system and understand the metrics that make it all work. So the calls is a key dynamic. So if you want 20 customers in the whole year, that's 2 per month. You might need 5 calls, you might need 8 calls, you might need 10, but you need 10 calls. So again, in the whole month on LinkedIn, 10 calls. Let's say 10 calls. Or 8 calls, whatever the number is. So now we've got some metrics to work on. So now I'm going to shift this up a gear and we're going to move up a gear. Who are the most valuable people I want to do business with? Who are the people I actually really want to do business with? Because they are the people I should be targeting. I don't need every single person on LinkedIn to love me. I don't need every single person who's my ideal client to love me. I just need 20. 20. So this is where your personal brand and your offer become very important, because you're trying to appeal to people who will convert. Quick tip, by the way, if you're selling your expertise, you've got to show your personality in your feed, because otherwise people will come to the content, engage with the content, and then when they come onto the call, they might not get the vibe with you. And so you might have a high call rate to close simply because your personality isn't in the content. You're speaking like a news reporter rather than sharing what matters to you and what you feel. So having your most valuable clients, targeting who are they? Who are the people who really value what I do? One of our members of our accelerator just did an audit of their clients that they'd had over the last 2 years. I'll not mention details, but they evaluated all the people that they'd worked with, and they went through and scored them based on who were the great ones, who were the not so great ones, who paid better, and who was hassled for payment. They went through that list to go, these are the ones I want. Because if you target the people who are easier to work with and better to work with and better paying, you will enjoy it better. You will enjoy it more. So who are those MVCs? Who are the people where you can add the most value and you get the most value? Then we've got the offer piece, which is how are we packaging what you do in a way that lands value quickly? And I'll explain why that's important in a moment. Then there's the message, the overall message of your profile, your content, who you are, the world, the campaign slogan to the world. And you need to think about LinkedIn as an election. And I don't mean like going around kissing babies, but I mean like you've got a clear message, you've got a clear policy, you've got a clear statement of how you will do things, and you have a process to do it. So the message is the blend of pulling everything together so that people can see it and understand it, and it's consistent across the platform. And then the system to actually deliver you the calls, deliver you the inbound messages so that you can actually get the calls themselves. And I'll show you 3 ways you can do that. So let's look at the 4 foundations to this in more detail. I'll check the questions. Yes, Scott, absolutely right. It's true. People will pay for it if they value it equal to their dollars. And this is something actually that's really important. Even when you sell something that does not have a monetary value in return, so, you know, you give me £10,000 and I'll make you £100,000, right? You might not have a service that directly translates to that, but every one of your clients will translate what you do into pounds, shillings and pence, or dollars and cents, wherever you are. So everything that you do, right, is always translated by the customer into pounds, shillings and pence, because they have to calculate which is worth more to me, 10,000 in my hand that I've got, or this. They have to weigh that up in their heads. And so our offer has to make that clear for them that that is a good decision. And if our offer doesn't do that, they won't buy, they'll keep the $10,000 or £10,000. So everything about what we're communicating has to help them see that this exchange is worth it. And if we don't do that, they won't buy. So it's very, very simple. We've got to make sure our offer is unambiguously clear. There is no guessing, there's no reading between the lines. It's clear. This is what it is, this is what it does, this is the difference it's going to make to you, because that's what matters to them. And that's how that exchange happens, where the person goes, it's 10,000, that's what I get for it, and they weigh it up and they make that decision. And you want to make that decision as no-brainer as possible. Now, we'll get into the offer in a moment, but the most valuable clients. So the most valuable clients, you need 20 clients, so you focus on the best fits, the absolute best fits. The reason why And I've made this mistake, and we all make it, and we continue to make it every so often. We take on clients who aren't best fit. They consume more time. They drain our energy. They frustrate us. And we feel like we don't sometimes stress us out and don't want to do our business anymore. I did a survey and something like 57% of people felt like giving up on their business because of a bad client experience. So the wrong fit clients can be a mistake, and you have to refrain from doing that. And that takes wisdom, and we don't always get it right. So focus on the ones where the value is there for you and the value is there for them. So in other words, they have a common buying motivation. If people are buying, they're all buying for the same reason. Number two, the problem is high enough value, right? And I did a post about this. When I first started out, I was selling £500 a month packages. And I found, right, that actually my £500 a month packages were so hard work, it was stressing me out, draining me. Some days I just regretted what I was doing. I didn't love it anymore. I didn't have any time to love it anymore. It was consuming my life. And then I suddenly realized for every customer that would pay 500, there was other customers who wanted the same work, but would pay 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000. Now they needed a different type of service in the sense of how we would communicate with them, but they would pay for it. And actually what I found was the £500 a month customers and the £2,000 a month customers, actually I was giving more service to the £500 a month customers, not because I neglected them, but because they demanded more. These people here actually didn't demand as much. So the most valuable clients become important. And here's a telltale tip, or a tip that I've always used that's really helpful. It's not perfect, but a way to steer it. When you're trying to think of your most valuable clients, think about your price point. So if your price point's $10,000 and it's a retainer, or it's $10,000 for the 12 months, or whatever that $10,000 or pounds is, your MVCs who are paying you the 10,000, their price point needs to be as close to your price point or higher than your price point if you actually want a more straightforward relationship. Why is that? Right? Well, when I was selling £500 a month packages, I was attracting people who were selling things for £100 and £50 and £200 and £300. So that £500 sounded like a lot of money. But if somebody's selling something for £10,000, $10,000, suddenly it becomes less of an important amount of money. And I share two examples on my feed on LinkedIn that you can read that happened to me. Totally crazy situations that changed my thinking on this. So always look for, most times your NVCs are selling something for more than you are charging. So I'll give you an example. If you're a social media marketer and you're selling your services to architects, architects are looking to build houses and buildings and their fees might be $50, $60, $100,000 or pounds. Suddenly your price becomes so insignificant, but they appreciate the value of it because of their price point. They appreciate things take time and understand process more, whereas somebody selling, I don't know, something lower value may not necessarily appreciate it as much because their price point is lower or way closer to yours. So just bear that in mind, that a lot of the times your MVCs, their price point is higher or similar to yours. But when it gets lower than yours, it becomes a problem. So that's the first thing, most valuable clients. So understanding who they are and mapping them out, and it isn't everybody, by the way. It could be companies where you're a solopreneur or you're a small business and your service price is 5,000 and actually you're targeting a company that's doing $1 million. Suddenly that price point is so insignificant. It doesn't always have to be product price point or service price point. It could be just the size of company difference, that they just value money differently. They appreciate the value of people's time. And this is really important. If you sign a client, I'm going into this in depth here, but if you sign a client who does not value your expertise and time, they will run you ragged. They will run you ragged. Why? Because they don't appreciate that you doing a quality design for their social media, or you building a website, or you building whatever it is you do. They won't appreciate the effort, the expertise that goes into it. So it's really important that you make sure you find the people who do. And generally it's about looking at what they do, what they sell, the size of their business, because suddenly they appreciate that actually that's not a lot of money. So next is the offer. Now this is the bit that's really tricky. So when I'm working with Accelerator members, I'll tell you about that a little bit later. When I'm working with them, they often struggle with this point, because effectively what you have to do is distill the value of your service into a very simple way of understanding. So it's basically defined by 4 components. The audience, your MVCs. So in other words, what matters to them? Who are they? The outcome that your service delivers. Outcome. People buy outcomes, right? And so the outcome determines the price. So the audience sets the bar. The outcome is what they want to achieve. And the outcome is then weighed against the price. So that's value. That's the fundamental calculation of how your value is put together. The outcome that you deliver, that they expect, and the price. Those two together make up the value of your offer. Now, the supporting pillars of your offer is how you deliver that outcome. How you deliver that outcome. So the outcome and the price create the value, and the process shows people how you get there, that gives them confidence. So process gives confidence, outcome and price show value. So like I said, if the customer, your customer, goes, actually in my head, that's £100,000 benefit for me, because that's their maths in their head, working it out, and your price is £10,000 or dollars, then it starts to make sense for them. But if they think in their head, actually, that's worth nothing to me, and it's 10,000, it's like, oh, that's a lot of money. So you have to really think about this and go, what's the value of my offer, outcome and the price? And you price to the outcome, you don't price to the process. Many of you watching this have been pricing to the process, right? Now, why is this a bad idea? Processes are cheap. We know they're not, but processes are cheap. It's like, oh, we do this, we do this, we do this. That's components, right? That's like me buying parts to a car, right? I can buy all the parts to the car. It's cheaper, secondhand, used. I could buy all the parts to a car, right? Oh, it's nothing. I can do that. Yeah, I'm not paying £50,000 for that. I can buy all those parts for less than that. Process, if you price to your process, you will struggle to show your value. You have to price to your outcome, because that's what makes the difference for people. So mental note, do not price to your process. Let me give you another example. If you can sell coaching, a 12-week coaching program, do not sell, these are the coaching sessions, because people will work out how much each coaching session costs. So if you go, actually, I've got a 12-week, $6,000, £6,000 coaching program, and it's 12 weeks, and this is what we're going to do. These are the modules. This is what we're going to go through. People will go $6,000, $12,000, $500, £500 a session. That's a lot of money. £500. I don't make £500 a session. But if you unlock their mindset, give them confidence, and they're able to present on camera in front of live audiences confidently, so they can be persuasive in front of large audiences whilst they're public speaking, £6,000 is way more than £500 an hour for 12 sessions. So don't price to your process, price to your outcome. If you forget everything else I say tonight, remember that. Because if you're pricing to your process, you'll probably talk yourself into it too. You'll probably go, oh, it's a bit wrong for me to earn £500 an hour. It's a bit wrong. I don't feel comfortable at charging £500 an hour. No, I wouldn't feel confident charging £500 an hour, but I feel confident about helping people build a 6-figure pipeline that's going to transform their business. But if I broke it down and went £500 an hour, that just doesn't seem comfortable, but it's about value. We all know that there's way more work that goes into servicing a client than just the time you spend with them. There's the thought process, there's the back office, there's the back and forth. It's never just 12 sessions. There's always extra stuff involved. So that we know that that's all the case. So you price to the value, not the process. Okay, then you build your message. So you've got your value, you've got your offer together. Now you've got to create that into content and into messaging. And there's 3 parts to this. There's the topic, there's the big promise, and there's the personal brand. The big promise is your statement to the world, your election slogan. So if you go to my LinkedIn header, you'll see mine is build a 6-figure pipeline and win clients on LinkedIn. That's my big promise. If you work with me, that's what we do. Yeah. Whether that takes you 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, that's what we do. 2 years, that's what we do. We build a 6-figure pipeline to win clients. So your big promise is basically your statement to the world, your election slogan. Then underneath that, you have your topics. 3 to 4 topics, not many. And then we break those topics down into key sections, key components. And then undergirding that, because people buy into you, not just what you do. I'm rhyming tonight. People buy into you, not just what you do. So there's your personal brand. Who are you? What's your story? What's your perspective on the world? What are the challenges you've seen people struggle with? What are the results you've helped people build? What's the transformation that you've been on is your journey? And all of this forms your message. So every content post, every post that you put out is linked. Every content post is relevant, but they're getting to know you, they're getting to know your value, and they're getting to know what you're offering to the world. This is how you build that confidence, that trust, that belief through content that gets people to say, I'm going to message in, I'm going to DM you. Yeah, so the other thing that's part of this, and again, you'll see this on my own profile on LinkedIn and Instagram, you'll see my call to action. A very clear, unambiguous, this is what you need to do if you want to get my big promise. And I tell people exactly what to do. And guess what? They do it. They message me, win. On LinkedIn, on Instagram, I get the message, win. And so having a very clear call to action, everything is joined up. Hopefully you're starting to see that the whole of your LinkedIn activity is now going, all the puzzles pieces are starting to slot into place. It's now becoming really clear. Camille, I'll come to your point in a second. And Scott said there, yeah, absolutely. This is where rapport building comes into place. So if you're, one of the reasons why I do this webinar, and people say to me, Dean, why don't you record them? Why do you do them live? Surely it's a big job to go live. Well, in a live environment, you can ask me anything. You know, people could say anything in the comments and you see it and you see my reaction. So in a live environment like this and on videos in content, I know videos are a big kind of hurdle for a lot of people, but the fact that I'm doing this live, you can see the fact there's no flipping notes here. I'm talking from my experience. I've got PowerPoint, but that's about it. But I'm looking down the camera at you. You get to see my personality. You get to see who I am. You get to see whether I'm passionate about what I believe in or not. You get to see and feel things about me. Yeah, you get to feel whether, can I work with this person or can I not? So I deliberately do the videos and the lives like this. One, it builds my brand. Some of you will never be my clients, but you might post about me. You might come and like and comment on my posts. You might support me in some way. Some of you will go, Dean, that was really helpful. I'm going to come on one of your paid online courses. And some of you will go, Dean, I want to work with you. I want to work with the Maverick team. I want you in my world to help make it different. So this is why I do all this stuff. So every piece of content I am creating is joined up to my big promise, and it's joined up to the offer that I have for the world. So it's all connected. So suddenly the chance and the randomness goes out of it because you signed up to this webinar because you liked my big promise. You signed up to this webinar because you like my big promise. So my message is resonating with people because I'm focused. I'm focused, so it means that everybody comes into my world is coming into my world on my terms. I know that sounds really arrogant and I don't mean it that way, but if I've set my stall out for a group of people who need my help, who will value my help, and I set my stall out, then the people who engage, the people who respond are the people I want. I know that sounds quite tough, but if you're a small business, you don't have millions of pounds to be able to spend on ads and do all that kind of stuff. You have to make the most of it. So you have to focus. You have to set your stall out really clearly. Anyway, I'll move on. So the systemization. Now we get to the nitty gritty, right? The technical bit. We've got through the strategy piece, the mindset piece. Hopefully I've not messed with some of your mindset here, but hopefully you can see actually, if I don't think clearly, my strategy won't be right. I could end up being vague. I could end up losing it. My content could be generic. I could be so worried about missing out that I don't appeal to anybody. Some of you watching me now will have been through this situation where you know you have to focus, you know how you have to drill down on your message, but you're so afraid to lose out. What if I focus over here and I miss an opportunity over here? What if I focus over here and I drill down over here and I lose this out here? That is the reason you're missing the mark, because trying to appeal, trying to not to avoid focusing for fear of missing out, you become generic, you become vague, you blend into the background, you're vanilla, you're beige. So we need to systemize our approach. So let's move into the practicals. Now, if you don't want to, if you're not the natural salesperson, if you're not a trained salesperson, you don't feel comfortable about it, you want to make it as easy as possible for you to get on calls. And you want to make sure that the calls come to you so that you feel more comfortable. So there's kind of 3 ways to do it. And I'm going to speak about these 3 ways. Just ignore the numbers because I've played around with the numbers a little bit today, example-wise, but they're about right. So the win rate is the number of people you will convert, but this is on a 4-to-1, and I said 5-to-1 before, so this is a 4-to-1. So in an hour per day, you've got an hour to get 8 calls a month to win 2 clients to make your 20K, assuming it's 10 grand thing. There's 3 ways to do this. Number 1 is the webinar. Now the webinar is the easiest to do in the sense of getting the crowd, assuming your message is dialed in. If your message isn't dialed in, it's really difficult, really difficult. So the strategy piece has to be absolutely clear and right. This is the easiest to actually do. It's not the easiest to convert because a lot of people come and they have to be nurtured post-webinar to actually become a client. But out of a webinar, 1.5% will actually convert into customers in the 60 days after the webinar, 60 days. So 1.5%. So it's really easy. The conversion rate, instant conversion in the 60 days afterwards is low, but the numbers are high. Beyond the 60 days, beyond the 60 days, pretty much the majority of your, a lot of those will convert. So I'll give you an example. On LinkedIn, on our small business division, our small business part, accelerators and our digital courses and things like that, 90% of our revenue comes from the people who convert either from a webinar or as a result of a webinar. They've been in our email list for maybe 3 to 6 months. 90% of our small business comes from that path. 90%. Because we're building that list, 267 people come in, 1.5% in the 60 days will become customers. So not huge numbers, but the balance of that list, the 200 and odd people who come through, those go into our email list who are nurtured, and they come back and come onto calls and buy in the future. So that's why the webinar, I say, is the easiest, because in the long run, that's going to give you a more sustainable business. Why? Because you're building an email list. And I'll just say, by the way, whilst I'm a lover of social media, all things social media, the top of the tree business model is that you've got an email list, because that is algorithm proof. If the algorithm changes on LinkedIn, or something happens on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, your email list will sustain you for months after you lose your LinkedIn account or something like that. So I'm not rubbishing LinkedIn, because actually LinkedIn builds my email list. But we have to see it in context. So the small, the webinars, whilst it looks like that's not a very good one, it's actually easier to get people to it. If you're building your network with the right people, it's easier to get people to it. Now, a bit more tricky is the lead magnet. And again, all of this is reliant on strategy. And some people are probably watching going, Dean, why are you telling all of the stuff that you teach? Why are you telling people all this for free? Tell you why I'm telling you all this for free is it's really simple. The success of this is not in the information. The success of this is in, one, your commitment to make a process work. That's the first thing. But the second thing is the strategy behind it to actually make it work. You can go and do these strategies yourself today, but if your messaging isn't dialed in, your target audience isn't dialed in, your offer isn't dialed in, all the things that we can help with, then no amount of banging a drum on LinkedIn is going to work. It just won't work. You'll have to play a massive numbers game to convert something if the message is not dialed in. And the same applies for webinar and lead magnets. So the reason I'm telling you for free is because I know that you can go and have a go at this, but if you don't do the work at the front end, the strategy and all of that process to actually make it work, you'll be still here in 6 months' time trying to get a webinar to work, trying to get a lead magnet to work. And most people will just go, oh, shiny object, I'll be on to something else. They'll just quit that and move on to something else. Then the hardest part, which is what I do for my corporate work, so I do this with more corporate clients, is true social selling. Building relationships with people, getting to know them, interacting with their content, having conversations in the DM, not pitching. And then when the relationship's developed, asking for a conversation. This is the most successful as a conversion percentage way to use LinkedIn, but it's massively time consuming. Oh, just going to say, if you want a copy of this book, by the way, the email address is on screen, hi@maverick.io. Send me an email. We'll email it you tomorrow. The office is closed in the UK right now because it's 7 in the evening, nearly 8. Email us and we'll send you a copy of this. And if you want a copy of the slides, we'll send them too. So social selling involves the most amount of time, the most amount of effort, but has the highest return per prospect. So you convert more in the immediate return. So instant conversion we're talking about in the 60 days of you doing it, 67 people will roughly give you, it's actually more than that. It's 3 and a bit clients. So it's actually more than you need. But these are numbers that we've averaged. So if you're a salesperson, you'll probably do a bit better than this in terms of social selling. But if you're kind of not a salesperson, or you're not comfortable with it, or you're not used to it, it's probably about where it is. So this is an average, and some industries convert better than others. So finance sector is a tougher sector than, say, CEOs and business owners. So there's different sectors, but this is an average. So you can see that the webinar for most people is the easiest to do. But I'll give you a caveat. It's better to do it if you're selling services or expertise. If you're selling products, it's much more difficult. So if you're selling some form of coaching, marketing service, copywriting, video production, engineering, consultancy, anything that's your expertise or a service, it's way easier to sell through a webinar than if you're selling a product. If you're selling to corporates, social selling's the way to go, because webinars is a long process. You want to get to a conversation quickly with a corporate. So you don't want to invest a lot of time trying to get corporate people to webinars. You can do it, and we have done it, but in general, it gives you a marginal advantage. It's a marginal advantage compared to just putting the work in on social selling. So these are 3 routes. And now, of course, you could add ads in there. You could add cold email in there. But to be honest with you, the success rate of cold email right now is not great. I did a test campaign with somebody today, and we did 500 messages, and they got 2 positive responses. 500, 2 positive responses. So, people go, oh, 500. Sounds great, but 500 for 2 is it's not great. So systemizing your approach. Why does all this work, right? Well, if you're a salesperson, you might not have a problem, sending out loads of emails and bashing people up. I don't have a problem if you want to do that. What I'm talking about really is a model that's not for people who want to do that. It's for people who want to build something without getting into the weeds of sales, basically. So you attract the most valuable clients, the people who you're really going to enjoy working with. You spend less time doing it, particularly with a webinar. You can step back a little bit. It's less intense. You've got now clarity if you follow this process. You know who you're selling, what you're selling, and I'll be honest, you can probably make a lot of money selling one thing on LinkedIn. You don't need lots of things. So you could go to market on LinkedIn with one service, one offering, and if it's designed right, you can actually upsell the people onto the next offering outside of LinkedIn. Every action now is joined up to making money. The whole process is connected from I'm posting, I've got my profile, I'm doing the webinar, I'm doing the lead magnet. It's all joined up to achieve a result. You'll enjoy it more. I never came out. My job for a long time was behind camera, and I had to start doing this at the beginning of the pandemic. I didn't do this before, but I love doing it now because I got into it. I feel like I'm helping people. So some people get real good help from me today, and they'll go away and they'll shout about it, and that's fantastic. So I feel like even though I'm committing to come on and do lives, I'm actually helping people whilst trying to build my business. And I don't have to stress about the whole piece of, what if I share too much? It's like, people are going to buy from you or they're not. Yeah. The more you stress about whether I share too much or too little, the more you kind of tie yourself in knots. And it's just like, I'll share, and some people will get it and run with it. Some people will get it and struggle with it. And some people will just come, Dean, help me. Dean, help me. So you make a real impact. You build a system to build the business on LinkedIn. If you're doing referrals, if you're doing other stuff, that's great. But this is a system for LinkedIn. Now, it works on other social channels, but not as effective because you can't organically target as well on LinkedIn. And you've built a 6-figure revenue stream. Now, as you've probably gathered, I've got to wrap up in a minute, but as you've probably gathered, there is no Lamborghini here, right? There's no me on a luxury yacht. And there's a reason why. Most of that is bullshit, basically. If you want to build a 6-figure revenue in your business, you will have to make a commitment. You will have to take time to do it. This is not popular, by the way. I'm not telling you anything that's popular. I would love to say to you, you can sign up with us or you can do this and in 60 days you're going to be a millionaire. It's going to take commitment from you to do this because that's where the buck stops. You are responsible for your business. And if you're serious about this, you will have to invest the time, not forever, but to making a system work. That's the first thing. Whatever system you choose, out of the box, you're going to have to make it work. You're going to have to go, oh, tweak this, tweak that. If you're not up for that, you will be magpie syndrome forever. Chasing this, chasing that, chasing the other. That's why we put the accelerator together, because we want people to come in knowing I'm building something. I'm building something that will be for the future, not 5 years' time, but not 5 minutes' time. It's for the future. It's for the next 12 months. It's for the next 2 years. It's not about getting one lead tomorrow. So this is the process. This is what it is. This is how it works. You probably, to get that 6-figure pipeline, it comes down to probably for most of you 10 people. Most of you watching this, it's 10 people. So the question for you is, do you have a strategy that clearly communicates your value to the right people who you want to work with, and you have a process to get those 10 people? It's just 10 people for most of you. Now, in my scenario, my business has to work a lot bigger because it's quite big now. When it was me on my own, it was like one client, and now it's like a lot more. But this is the challenge to you. So if you want to talk about this, if you want to know more about how we work, there's no obligation. Get the book, by the way. Email us. It's got me looking kind of mean on the front, and we'll send you a copy of this. But if you want to know more about our accelerator, which will help you do this, will hold you accountable, will give you the support, will help you build a strategy. You've got weekly coaching. If you want to go on the Accelerator Elite, you get one-to-ones with me. We will help you build this. We will commit to you if you're committed to making it happen. So I'm going to do some questions quickly. Scott just said, sorry, I'm catching up, Scott. I really served that one up to on a platter, but still, you're 100% right. Face-to-face is the best building material. Absolutely. So Scott is not a plant, by the way. Scott, you're sounding like a plant. Yes, if you want to find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, come find me. I'll answer any questions. But if you're serious about this, we'll happily go on a call. Even if at the end of the call you say, I'm not sure it's for me, that's fine. I'm not into this pressure selling that seems so prevalent these days. I think it's grubby. If you want to know more about what we do, it's on you. I'll send you the link. So we'll send you a link tomorrow. If you want the replay or the PDF slides or this book, our email address is on screen, hi@maverick.io. Send us an email. You send us an email. Don't put your email in the chat. I don't know why people do that, but I think it's just because of language. Send us an email and they go, oh, I'll send you my email. Physically go to your email app or email platform, send us an email, hi@maverick.io. Please send me the Get Clients from Social Media book, and I want the replay and the slides from today, and we will send them to you. It will be tomorrow because UK office times are closed now, but we will send it to you tomorrow, and we look forward to helping you out. But if this has got value, one more thing, and then I will shut up, I promise. If you've got value from this, right, here's the deal. If you got value from this, and please go tell other people, go share it, do a post about it, go onto Trustpilot and write a review. If you've got value from what we've shared tonight, tell somebody about it, because that you help us. Even if you don't need our help, you can help us, and we really appreciate when people do that. And it's nice to know from my point of view that I'm investing this time and people are getting value. So if you feel comfortable doing that, please go do it. Now, we are back next week, next Thursday, different time next week. We'll be back with another session. It's content that converts. So we're going to be digging into the content piece of this a little bit more next week. So do go to our company page on LinkedIn, go to sign up and register, and we'll get you the details and you can join us live again. So thank you so much. Don't forget, book a call or send us an email to get a copy of this. We'll tell you about the accelerator if you want to know, and we'll send you the slides and replay tomorrow. Thank you so much for being part of tonight, and see you next time.
Dean's strategy helped me find clients. I created clients for my business with this program. It works.
My connections have grown, my reach has grown, my views have grown, and actually so has my business revenue. Over that 3-month period, I have actually signed up 3 new clients at a cost of £50,000. That's over just a 3-month period. So it's worth it.
Every single time there's a session, I just feel like it's just a golden moment. Every single session brings me something really new and really valuable, and I've started to attract high value client sales, which is wonderful, and it's really given our business a boost.
Dean Seddon and the Maverick team, what can I say? Apart from absolutely awesome.
The results have been amazing. We have had loads of incoming leads coming into our lead funnels and workflow processes on our website. And we've also built a really successful community around the content that we produce and push out into our LinkedIn channels. My team has also learned a lot from working with the team at Maverick, and they've also helped us really create fantastic events on LinkedIn.
I'm much more confident, and all of that, without a shadow of doubt, is down to the work and the training and support I've had from Dean and the rest of his team as part of the Accelerator course.
In terms of the training, Maverick have been absolutely fantastic. They've been so supportive. They've talked me through all the stages of what you have to do, why you have to do it, the benefits of doing it the way they tell us to do it. And I've gone from being with no social media to being actually addicted, because I can see what this can do for lead generation, generating new business. It's just been incredible, and Maverick have been superb throughout the whole process.
The guys at Maverick, they've been great. Dean and his team, very knowledgeable, wealth of experience, and we've had quite a few one-to-ones now that really taught us the depths, the nooks and crannies of LinkedIn, which none of us would have known before, and I think we can continue to use that going forward, and it's been great so far, and I hope to continue to use it as well.